Good morning. Called conduction. Conduction is number one. Then number two, we have convection, and number 3, we have radiation. Radiation is a third way of heat transfer. So we need to explain each of them one by one. So we begin with conduction. We see how conduction takes place. So conduction is just the transfer of heat in solids. So conduction is the transfer of heat in solids. Conduction happens in solids only. So that one, we mean that when you're holding a spoon, for example, this one is just conduction direct. Conduction, because this is a spoon, and a spoon is a very good example of a solid and a metal. So that heat will move through it by means of what? Of conduction. So solids that allow heat to travel through them, those are metals. So metals are very good examples of solids that allow heat to move through them easily. So conduction can only occur when we are using objects that can allow heat to move through them. They are called metals that allow heat to travel through them. Conduct heat. Only them. So you just write there metals that allow heat to move through them or conduct. I say to conduct heat. The ones that do not allow heat to move through them can't conduct heat. Like we'll just give an example here first before we see the one that can't allow heat to move through them. So examples of these metals, we have aluminium. Again, we have silver. We have copper. And we have iron. Most of furriers are made of aluminium. Some of the things again are also made of silver. Some are made of copper. Also, electric cables are made of copper. And again, we have some made of iron. Even some kitchen appliances are also made of iron. That's why they're able to conduct heat. Then we have those that can't conduct heat completely. They are called the non. We will mention them later, but let me just mention them here. The poor conductors. The one that cannot conduct heat completely. So here we have plastic. Plastics is a very good example of poor conductors. We also have the likes of wood. We have a stone. Plastic you have mentioned. We have glass. Glass is another example. Then we have liquids. And then we have gases. Those ones are under examples of poor conductors of heat. They can't conduct heat. Heat can't move through them. A plastic, you have mentioned a wood, a stone, glass, liquids, and gases. So here we are going to have an example, and the other example, I'm not going to draw it because I've drawn it here already. I've shown it here. How the heat will move from the main source of heat to your hand. That process is called conduction. So we are going to draw a setup that is normally brought in examination. This setup is very common as far as exam is concerned. So we have a stand. This one is just a stand. Another stand is here. And then we have a rod put on top of this particular stand. And then here we have a source of heat, and this source of heat is normally a candle. This one is heat put there. This one is a candle. Then this one is a stand, as I just mentioned. Then you'll realize that on top of here is a rod. A rod, I mean, by this rod I mean that is a metallic rod. Let me just write it. is a metallic rod, and then we are putting wax, or at times you can use oil. You can use oil. So the first one, I draw it wrongly. The first one should be here, is hanging here on some pins, 2, 3, and 4, and then we hang some pins on it. There are pins hanged, some pins are hung on it like that, and we give them numbers. This is pin number 1, pin number 2, pin number 3, pin number 4. So you'll be asked about this. Okay, the thing that we need a candle, as we have mentioned. We need a pin or needles. We need some sources of heat. We need a metal rod or a long nail, and then we set it the way we have done it. Then we'll be told to observe what happens when that thing is heated like that. So after some time, the pins will fall one by one, starting with the one that is nearer to the source of heat. So we'll expect this. When this heat hits this particular rod, the heat will be transferred from this place as it moves towards pin number 4. So we expect this pin number 1 to fall down first, because heat will arrive here first before traveling to the other places. Yeah, so that is it. So those things will fall, starting by the one nearer to the candle, as it transfers to the one pin number 4. And again, the last pin to fall will be number 4. The first one to fall will be number 1 automatically. And I hope we are together. Then conclusion of this is that heat travels from one end of the rod to the other through conduction. That is it. Heat travels from one end of the rod to the other through conduction. Only it can travel through any means on a solid, through any other means. It has to travel through conduction. So we are going to know what are the poor conductors, though we had mentioned them before. Poor conductors of heat. You need to know the meaning of poor conductors. What are these poor conductors of heat? So then, the poor conductors of heat, the good ones. We have good and good. Okay, here we can just say good and poor conductors of heat. So just a small table here that will show. We begin here with the good, then here we have the bad conductors. So just to mention just but a few. Good conductors, you can mention here, talk of iron. You can also talk of iron rod, as we mentioned. We mentioned also aluminium. We also mention of silver. We also mentioned copper. And then we also mentioned so nails can be made of iron. The nails can fall here. Most nails are made of iron. And then most kitchen things are made of iron or aluminium. Some are made of steel. So steel can also be there. Then we also have pins. Most pins are also made of iron. So pins can also fall there. So we are being told that most good conductors are made of iron, are like iron rod, nails, and pins. Then the poor conductors are many. We mentioned wood here. We also mentioned a paper. We also mentioned a stone. We also mentioned plastic. That is the main one. Plastic. Then we mentioned a glass. and then we also have liquids and gases. So how do we use these good and poor conductors of heat? The uses. Learner, this one is the simplest. Uses of good and poor conductors. So the first one that you need to know, learner, is that good conductors of heat are used to make cooking utensils. They are used to make the cooking utensils. And here is where we talk of saucepans. All saucepans are made of good conductors. Frying pans, kettles, sufurias, and etc. So this is because they allow heat to pass through them from one source of heat to the food being cooked. Yeah. Good. This thing that we have mentioned, they are made of good conductors of heat because they can heat can move through them. They can transfer heat from the main source of heat to the whatever is being cooked in the pan, for example. Then handles of most utensils, and that is now number 2. Handles of most utensils are made of the poor conductors, i.e. plastic. So plastic, normally look at the handle of a pan, a saucepan. It's made of plastic. Why, Lana? Because we need a poor conductor there to make somebody cook with ease, such that a wood or a handle plastic, this to prevent heat from reaching the hands of the one using them. When you're using them, maybe you are frying eggs when you're frying eggs, you realize that you use it when we hold the handle of the saucepan to prevent us from burning. So without that poor conductor of heat will transfer even to the handles that can burn you while using them. So they are all important. Good conductors are important, as well as the poor conductors of heat. As you can see, let me just take you to the picture. You can see the way we have the kettle there. Look at the kettle and the handles of the kettle. They are made of plastic. So this one prevents the person using the kettle from burning. We also have a large spoon here, the one our parents use when frying mandazi and the rest. You can see that the handle is made of what? Made of plastic. So this plastic will help to make the user not to burn. You can also see the frying pan. The handle is made of plastic. So this one is to make work easier for the person who is using them not to burn. So poor conductors that are used to prevent heat from getting into our out of the object are also called insulators. So you'll get that term, insulators. So insulators are just poor conductors of heat that are used to prevent heat from getting in or out of an object. Prevent heat from getting in or out of an object. So all these are called insulators. We have just mentioned about a frying pan and the handle. The handle is made of an insulator. This one is now called an insulator. This plastic put there is now called an insulator. We also have other places where it's applied. You get that electric cable wires are running inside a plastic. The cables are not left naked. we cover all the electric cables with the plastic. So this plastic put there is now known as a what? An insulator, because it covers the heat that may have shocked us when we touch a live cable. So Lana, I want to stop there. Don't want to continue. In our next lesson, we are going to look at convection. So we told that there are three. So we have conduction, that we have to look at it independently, alone. Then our next lesson, we are going to look at convection, and possibly radiation is also small. We can look at convection, then we look at radiation at the same time. So in our next lesson, Lana, I expect that you are also going to enjoy the next lesson. You can try the experiment that we have done. I'll just drill it somewhere. We can try it. We can try to try this, either this experiment or this, and see how heat is transferred from one place to the other. But remember, Lana, don't get burnt. When holding the spoon, you can use a wet cloth. You can use a wet cloth to prevent you from being burnt by the heat. So until next time, Lana, I want to wish you well. Enjoy your day. I'm going to give you some few questions to try to see if you have understood this lesson. Until next time, I want to wish you well.